If people have a problem with you setting boundaries with others, then they have a problem with Jesus himself. Matthew chapter 23, verses 23 through 28, Jesus says this to the Pharisees. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Ye blind guides, which strain at a gnat, and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto whitest sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones, and of all uncleanness. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. So in these scriptures, we clearly see that Jesus does not like the Pharisees very much. And this is just one instance. There are multiple times where Jesus had encounters like this with the Pharisees in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And if you really dive into the encounters that Jesus had with the Pharisees, it's very interesting. He called these people out for breakfast, but he's setting boundaries with these people. He wasn't hanging out with these people. He saw them for what they were. They were religious hypocrites. At the time, the Pharisees were considered the most holy of them all, as far as men goes. But the reality is that they were self-righteous hypocrites. They were the holier than thou. They put others down constantly. Jesus at one point tells them that they had shut the door to the kingdom of heaven, and the irony is that they weren't even going to go into heaven. They shut the door and they weren't even going to enter themselves. There's a time where Jesus calls them the sons of Satan, a brood of vipers, greedy, ravenous wolves. He couldn't stand the Pharisees, and they couldn't stand him either. And it wasn't just the Pharisees as well. It was the Sadducees, who were very similar to the Pharisees that Jesus went after as well. But in these scriptures, the context is that Jesus is going off on these Pharisees in front of a large group of people, possibly hundreds or thousands. So he is very aware that there is a large group of people watching him do this. And this wasn't in some secluded little area. No, this was out in public. Anybody could have seen this. You know, a lot of people I've noticed have a watered down version of Christ who think that he's just some kumbaya, he's out here smoking weed, hippy dippy guy. That's not Jesus. That's not the real Jesus at all. Jesus is love. Don't get it twisted. Jesus is love, but he's also judgment and justice. He's not just one thing, and he's also truth as well. So right here with the Pharisees, he's telling them the truth. Of course, the Pharisees didn't like that, but essentially, Jesus is calling them out, telling them the truth. I've seen a lot of people online tell other people for calling people out on their shenanigans that, well, that's not very Christ-like. That's not Christ-like. Jesus wouldn't do that. Oh, really? Have these people not read the encounters with Jesus and the Pharisees? Because you have to understand, in these scriptures right here, Jesus is not talking to them. He's not whispering. He is yelling at these people. He is, I don't know if I would say screaming, but he is yelling at these people. You know, Jesus wasn't scared of these people. A lot of the people at that time, a lot of the Jewish people at that time were scared of the Pharisees. You know, the Pharisees were so holy. They were the closest to God. You know, they knew the law the best. They were teachers of the law. So they were in a very high hierarchy. So people feared them in a sense. But Jesus, on the other hand, not so much. These people weren't humble. They had no accountability. They weren't going to tell you when they did wrong because they acted like they never did anything wrong. And that everybody else except them was just these terrible sinners who they had no chance to go to heaven without them. So there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries with religious hypocrites, the holier than thou, the people that are so self-righteous, who just boast constantly about how awesome they are and what they do and this, that, and the third. There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries with these people because Jesus did. He called them out left and right. He wasn't scared of these people. He called them out. And unfortunately, in today's time, and it's been going on really since the beginning, there have been a lot of self-righteous hypocrites. A lot of holier than thou. It's in the church. I see it all the time online. I'm sure you guys have encountered these type of people in person, online, wherever. It's very sad to see, to be honest. It's very disheartening to see these kind of people trying to put others down constantly, and put themselves on this high pedestal, when in fact, we all need Jesus the same. Jesus died for all of us, and they are no better than you at the end of the day. So don't ever feel bad for setting boundaries with Pharisee type people, because Jesus did. And in fact, he called them out, as we see here in these scriptures. So I would recommend you guys to go through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and see where Jesus called the Pharisees out in his encounters with the Pharisees. It'll make you look at yourself and realize, wow, maybe I've been acting holier than thou. Maybe I've been Mr. or Mrs. Self-righteous. Maybe I need to humble myself before the Lord does it for me. Because if you've been humbled by the Lord or chastised, as it talks about in Hebrews chapter 12, it's not fun being humbled by the Lord.